Hi everyone, welcome back to the Whitney Water Center Learning from Home. My name's Lisa DeFrancesco, the water science educator here at Regional Water Authority. What we're going to experiment with today is density. Density is how heavy a substance is, and we're going to experiment with fresh water and salt water. For today's experiment, you're going to need a container of tap water. I used yellow food coloring so we can tell it apart during our experiment. And you're going to need a container of salt water. I made this salt water by mixing table salt, 1 part of table salt, to 4 parts of the tap water. Make sure it's nice and dissolved. Give it a good stir. You don't want to see too much of the salt floating around in there. And I'm going to use some blue food coloring so we can tell the salt water apart. Stir in that blue. Let's make it a little darker. All right. One of these waters, the tap water or the salt water, is going to be heavier. And we're going to do an experiment to figure out which one it is. You're also going to need an empty container to mix the 2 different waters in. All right, let's begin by pouring some yellow colored tap water into the empty container. Next, you're going to tip the container with the yellow tap water in it, and then very slowly pour the blue salt water in. Just let it drip down the side. When you're done, very carefully level it out. As we poured the blue salt water in, it mixed with some of the yellow tap water. So that's why we see the green. The green is the more dense liquid. The salt water is heavier, it's more dense, so it sinks to the bottom. The tap water, the yellow, is lighter, it's less dense, so it floats to the top. You can see the distinct line in between the yellow and the green, and that separates the salt water from the fresh water. Another way to prove that salt water is more dense than tap water is to weigh it. I'm using a triple beam balance, which lets us measure things very accurately. And I measured 50 milliliters of water, and I poured it into a cup, weighed the cup in the water, and that totals 66.2 grams for the salt water. When we weigh the same volume of tap water, 50 milliliters, in the same cup, our scale is showing us the water weighs 58.2 grams. So it's the same volume of water, but because it's less dense, it's not as heavy. We demonstrated through both experimentation and measurement that salt water is more dense than tap water. And that's the same reason if you're in the ocean, it's easier to float than if you're in a lake. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for joining us. My name's Lisa DeFrancesco here at Regional Water Authority, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.